virtual event, we obviously got used to the buzz in the corridors when our members and delegates would fill this hall, and we would go to the Expo upstairs. But still, we had proven that this event get the support of more than 1,000 delegates registered. This year, proudly, South Africa celebrates its 20th anniversary. 3 years after 1998, the 1998 Jobs Summit, convened by President Mandela, proudly SA was launched in 2001. The focus since inception was to address the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. This year, this focus is even more relevant as we need to recover from the impact of COVID-19 on the economy, and particularly on the poor in our country. Many have lost jobs. Many have suffered from reduced incomes. And in fact, many families in our land lost loved ones. And we respect the pain that we have of a father, a mother, a sister, a brother over this past year. The concept of buy local campaign is in fact a global phenomenon. Local campaigns exist in many countries such as Australia, the US, the UK, Philippines. And on the continent, we have worked with many African countries like Zimbabwe, Swaziland, Malawi, Zambia, and also Mauritius and Tunisia. Proudly, South Africa, the country's national buy local campaign, seeks to strongly influence procurement in public and private sectors to increase local production. This is in line with government's plan to revive the economy so that millions of jobs can be created and unemployment can be decreased under both the national plan and also now with the economic recovery plan. In this slide, we show you the route we have followed over the last 20 years. But for me to focus on the last 5 years really was when we started to introduce the campaign that you have seen over the last few months on television called Game Plan, and particularly in this last 5 years, bringing home the message to consumers that it is in our hands in this country to make localization work for us. Our focus areas include 4 particular areas, in particular the public sector, where we focus on the designation of certain goods and services, and the education of supply chain managers in the public sector. Secondly, the private sector, where we're focused on getting the large corporates, including the retailers, to make commitments so that we can have many, many products produced locally on the shelves. And then also working together with the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition to secure the sectoral master plans. And then finally, to focus on consumer education. We've moved the campaign with the assistance of Dr. Kani, who has made a major impact on consumers. Our consumers understand soccer, understand what it means when we say we are now deep in the second half and we need to score in order to win. Proudly, South Africa's role is as particular over the 5 years that I have been the chair, focused on the retail sector. And over the 5 years, we've seen steadily the increase and the commitment of our retailers to ensure that local products are on their shelves. But we need to drive the demand even more. And I want to encourage consumers when they go shop, look at the label and ask the shop assistant, where do I find this jeans that was made in South Africa? In addressing demand challenges, one of the major areas that we've made significant progress in is the designation of certain goods and services by the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. This is a milestone. We have key areas that the government has identified that they will procure from local producers. What this slide shows is that in 2019-2020, only 68% of the tenders that we have monitored through our tender monitoring system were fully compliant with the local content of the designated areas. And this, Minister, is a major challenge. It is not the principle and the law that is now the challenge. The challenge is to convince the supply chain managers in the public sector that this is in fact the law and that they must comply with the law. So the work we have done in the private sector is particularly important because initially local supply were increasing, but now demand from both the public and private sectors is declining. So the numerous interventions, including contact 258 companies, total of 508 emails, letters sent out to corporates and industry bodies. Proudly, South Africa is urging them to procure locally made PPE from the portals, but there has been no proper uptake. In 2019, the CEO and myself discussed that we will write a letter to our president. We would humbly request that the president sets an example and wear a locally made tailor suit from the House of Monetics at the SONA in 2019. Can the president please set an example and support the local fashion industry? He listened, and on 20 June 2019, he said, the suit, the shirt, and the tie I'm wearing today was locally made by South African textile workers at the House of Monetics here in Cape Town. Let us all buy locally made goods to drive economic demand. Mr. President, now is the time to drive that message home to everyone in the public sector and to everyone in the private sector. It is my privilege to introduce Minister Patel as our Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. He has been a good friend over many years and a close colleague and comrade over many years, and we feel welcome in his presence when we enter this journey today and for the year ahead in driving this localization program in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the proudly South African chairperson, Mr. Howard Gabriel. morning, fellow South Africans. Mr. President, proudly South African Chairperson, Mr. Howard Gabriels, proudly South African board members, CEO and executive team, representatives from business, organized labor and civil society, distinguished guests, participants and partners. President Ramaphosa will today give the keynote address on this 20th anniversary of the launch of the Proudly South African campaign. His administration has placed industrial renewal at the heart of our efforts to boost economic growth, to create jobs and to transform the economy. I want to recall that in the State of the Nation address of this administration, the first one of this administration, in June 2019, President Ramaphosa said, and I quote, "We will stimulate local demand and grow South African manufacturing by making sure the Buy Local campaign is everywhere and ever present," unquote. The President then outlined in the SONA speech what he termed a reimagined industrial strategy that would underpin the efforts to localize. And over the last 20 months since that speech, in the midst of a global pandemic, government has been putting an integrated approach together to drive that strategy, implementing it, and harvesting early fruits. Buy local efforts typically have to address more than an appeal to patriotism. Consumers look at price and product innovation or quality. Investors look at the size of a market and whether it justifies the investment, and consumers look to local availability on the shelves and the marketing thereof. The integrated approach seeks to address these complementary elements of the Buy Local campaign. To improve local product competitiveness, we have launched a series of industry master plans to strengthen the supply side of the industry, which the President will speak to. To address the need for a larger market, the President launched the start of trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area to enable scale efficiencies to kick in. To address availability of locally produced products, we now have a number of commitments from the business community and retailers to partner with us on the localization campaign. Coca-Cola will make available 240 million rand over the next 3 years to help drive that campaign. And it will help us to monitor implementation gaps that Howard Gabriels pointed to, and to identify new opportunities, including products where we can scale up. Mr. President and colleagues, South Africa is not unusual in the focus on local production. Many developing countries have run campaigns and use a range of measures to appeal to local consumers to buy goods made in their communities. Many governments buy their core products from local producers. 2 successive United States administrations, Republican and Democrat, have championed the Buy America campaign, most recently that of the Biden administration. In April last year, the President of the European Council welcomed Europe's joint roadmap for recovery. She spoke of the need for the European Union to increase strategic autonomy and produce essential goods in Europe. South Africa recognized during the pandemic that our reliance on global suppliers came with enormous challenges and difficulties for our country. So we turned that around. We used it to scale up production of medical grade face masks from a capacity of about 6 million in March last year to almost 16 million a month in March this year. We produced 20,000 CPAP ventilators following a partnership between government and industry to design, to test, to produce, and to use these machines locally. Clinicians have advised us that these machines have saved lives. What all of this points to is the recognition that even in the age of globalization, nation states and regions have responsibilities to promote local industrial innovation and capacity. We have now reached an agreement in NEDLAC with the business community, with unions, to work together to make locally made products that are currently being imported. Our non-oil import bill in 2019 was 1.1 trillion rand. We're setting ourselves the target over a 5-year period to reduce that by 20%. That would entail bringing 200 billion rand back into local production, adding up to 4% to our GDP, and increasing many, many more jobs for young South Africans. Mr. President, in your speech in June 2019, you also said, let us buy locally made goods to drive up demand in our economy. The Proudly South African campaign, Mr. President, whose origins are in a resolution by the South African Clothing and Textile Workers Union in 1999, and Howie Gabriels was in that union. You may know of that union, Mr. President, is a critical vehicle to drive that call. It's been energized by your leadership of the Buy Local campaign, wearing a local suit, eating local fruit, promoting local music and film. This campaign has at its core an idea whose time surely has come. And it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker and the person who's been leading the work on the Buy Local and Proudly South African campaign, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, and to invite the President to take the floor. Mr. President, the floor is yours.
Program Director, dear Howard Gabriels, but let me start off with the Minister and like to thank you for your kind words of introduction, and the Chairperson of the Board of Proudly South Africa, Mr. Howard Gabriels, whom I've known for many, many years in the unions, CEO of Proudly South Africa, Mr. Mashimje, and the entire executive team, representatives of business, organized labor, and civil society, distinguished guests, participants, and partners, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed extremely pleased to be given an opportunity and to be part of this summit and Expo as we celebrate wonderful 20 years. It gives us cause to remember why Proudly South African was formed, to recall what it has achieved, and to remind us why it remains as important today as ever. Last month, I received a letter that brought home to me just how important a buy local strategy is for reigniting our economy. It was a letter of appreciation from Kayakazi Kepe, a young entrepreneur from Port Elizabeth who turned her culinary skills into a startup selling ready-made meals. She was writing to thank our government for the support her small business received during the lockdown. Not only was she able to keep her doors open and her staff employed, but her business expanded at a time when many businesses were contracting. Kayakazi told me that she was able to sign a service level agreement with SPAR South Africa to produce meals for sale in some 144 stores across the Eastern Cape. That's a phenomenal number. This kind of success story demonstrates a number of things. Firstly, the ingenuity and creativity of small local business. Kaya's Kitchen stepped in to meet a growing need for ready, cooked, locally inspired meals. Secondly, it shows the commitment of a large retailer to enterprise development and to supporting small businesses. By the time the product ended up in the deli, in a supermarket, a whole value chain was supported, from the manufacturer to the businesses that supply packaging, to the fresh produce producers whose ingredients Kaya uses in the meals that she produces. Most importantly, as Kaya Kazi told me, the growth of her business meant that not only was she able to retain the jobs that she had helped to create during the pandemic, but she will now be able to hire new staff as her kitchens and her business expand. And so we have a positive case study of government, the private sector and small businesses working together in perfect harmony and alignment, with the outcome being that local business was supported. Local jobs were saved, but they were also created, and 100% locally sourced and produced products that make up what Kaya is able to put on the shelves of a chain store are gaining popularity among local consumers. The story of this company mirrors that of many local firms, but there have also been many who were not so fortunate. Companies with long histories and deep footprints in the domestic market have been badly affected by the pandemic. This has worsened the effects of several years of difficult economic conditions, preferences for cheaper imported goods, and in some cases, with changing consumer patterns. Many companies have had to scale down, and others have been forced to close, unfortunately. Given the global economic climate, we can anticipate decreased demand for our goods, our products and services, even from our traditional export markets. With the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, the work of Proudly South African has taken an even greater significance. The task of this summit is therefore immense. It is not enough to preach buy local message. We need to practice it. We need to put it into effect. We need to live it, and we need to talk it. As government, as state-owned enterprises, as businesses, even as individuals, and all of us as leaders, we need to set the example. Howard talks about me having promised that I will wear a locally made suit, tie, and shirt when I address SONA. I've taken it even beyond that, Howard. It has now become a regular dress code for me to work local. And they are beautifully made suits, wonderfully crafted shirts. We do need to demonstrate that buying local is about investing in quality, in sustaining local businesses, and investing in our people by keeping the jobs here at home. We have to step up our efforts, not just to get locals to buy local, that is, our people to buy locally produced goods, but to improve the entry of our goods, our products and services into export markets as well. We have to save existing jobs and stimulate the economy for new jobs to be created. Businesses that were on the brink of collapse during COVID-19 have to be rebuilt, and new ones have to be formed. It is for all of these reasons that localization and local procurement is absolutely essential. In their respective commitments at the 2018 Job Summit and in their engagement last year on our National Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, all our social partners, being business, government, labor, and civil society, have all dedicated themselves to this task. And that is a huge plus for us. And this is where social compacting is so critical and so important. There is an express undertaking to increase local procurement over the next 5 years. Apart from its own procurement commitments, government is working to lower the barriers to entry to make it a lot easier to establish and to grow a business in our country. We're also working to support existing manufacturers. We are enforcing measures to stop the illegal importation of goods which weaken our local market. In the State of the Nation address last month, I spoke about increasing local production and reducing our dependence on imported goods. And this is an important message. I also spoke of bringing more small, medium enterprises into the formal economy by introducing small business local procurement thresholds for the public sector. We are also working to identify localization champions to help drive import replacement programs across various industries in our economy and for specific projects. Another element of our recovery plan, our infrastructure build program, has massive potential for job creation and local business development. If local procurement is to be at the scale and the center and the impact we envisage, we have to deepen our collaboration. Through legislation, we have designated 27 sectors for local procurement by the public sector. Proudly South African is playing an important role in monitoring compliance with these designations. And this is important so that we go beyond just making statements, but we now look at real implementation of what we pronounce. It is clear that even in the public sector, we still have some distance to travel to ensure effective compliance. I would like us to reach a stage where it is part of our nature. It becomes natural. It becomes the easily done thing that we buy local. Howard Gabriels talks about, yes, when South Africans have to go to stores to buy, look at the label. Yes, that's important, but I want our stores to be at the forefront of this so that they actually direct our people, consumers, to shelves, to rows, to areas of locally made products. And they can do that in a variety of ways. Whether public or private, we need to appreciate that choosing to procure local through and across value chains is a solid commitment. It is also a solid investment in our economic recovery. And our recovery plan pivots around this. This is such an important aspect that is going to ensure that we do recover. It grows our economy, it creates jobs, it broadens our markets, and creates numerous opportunities for business expansion. But what it also does, it will lead to creativity and innovation amongst our entrepreneurs because they will know immediately that they have a market. Because this issue of not being sure about having a market is what holds our creativity back, our productivity back, our innovation back. So we've got to assure entrepreneurs in one or other form that be creative, be innovative, you will have a market, and the market is our local market. This is the thinking that underpins the sectoral master plans that have been developed by government, business and labor. And Minister Patel has been leading in this, and his dogged commitment to this is something that is beginning to catapult those industries to a higher level. And I thank Minister Patel for his commitment in this regard. The master plans that have been concluded are beginning to pay off. These are in the automotive industry, clothing, textile and footwear and leather, poultry, as well as the sugar industry. And other master plans are in their final stages, and those are for furniture and plastics industries. These plans work to ensure that the respective value chains are localized for the benefit of the South African economy and the creation of jobs. The plans include significant investment commitments from both government and stakeholders to drive up productivity and employment. The Automotive Master Plan, for example, aims to double the amount of job opportunities by increasing the level of local content in vehicles assembled in this country from 39% to 60%. That is a whooping increase. And the commitment to achieve that 60% is there. And I've seen it and I've heard it. And I want to touch it more and more. The Poultry Master Plan has contributed to the production of more than 1 million additional chickens every week that make their way onto the shelves in our retail stores. And that too is great success. In the sugar sector, we have secured the commitment of local manufacturers of soft drinks to procure 80% of their sugar needs from local growers, including small-scale growers. The clothing, textile, footwear and leather sector has embraced the localization drive as well, and they've pledged R500 million to the expansion of local manufacturing sites. To support these initiatives, we must intensify our efforts to persuade the ordinary consumer about the importance of buying local. We must ask every South African, and we must continue spreading the word, to take a conscious decision, as Howard Gabriel said, to buy locally made goods. And doing so should be something that fills all of us as South Africans with pride. It must give us a step in our walk, and we must feel that our country is manufacturing goods, it is going somewhere, and we are not exporting jobs. Because when you buy externally made goods, you are essentially voting for the creation of jobs in other places and countries. Our message must be that whenever you buy, wherever you may be, buy proudly South African made goods. Wear local, travel local, eat local, like eating Kaya's made food, watch local content, read local authors. And this is so important that even when you go to a bookstore, go to that section that is Africa, South African. Support local music. Yes, listen to the brilliant stars that we've got in our country, because it is when we buy their music that the income they get is circulating amongst us. And this is the important part. You know, other countries make sure that the money that is used to buy circulates within the country, within the community, and that is what we should aim for, that every rand must circulate over and over and over in our communities in the country. And we must make use of raw materials that is locally produced. So Proudly South African must move beyond just being a campaign. We want it to be a reality. It must become a mass movement that all South Africans are keen to embrace and to actively support. I always try to wear my Proudly South African badge. I left it in Cape Town, and I should be given more. Those badges must be made in their millions so that they are spread out, so that people know that by wearing this badge, I am making a pledge to buy local. This Buy Local Summit and Expo has a valuable contribution to make to the development of such a movement. It offers much to social partners and to the citizens of our country. It raises the level of consciousness and awareness and commitment amongst our people. It offers assistance to small, medium enterprises. It capacitates them to provide them with skills, enthusiasm, creativity, even knowledge, and opens up various opportunities to become part of a larger supply chain. Through the Business Solutions Hub that forms part of this event, companies are able to navigate through some of the administrative challenges that businesses and investors still face. This summit is an opportunity to set out the path ahead for the Buy Local movement. And from our discussions here will come new ideas that will help to take this localization campaign movement forward in an exponential way. So this Expo demonstrates the breadth of skills and capabilities in our local industries. It showcases the many areas of local production in which South Africa excels, and we do excel in a number of areas. We urge everyone to visit the Expo to find out what the country, that is our country, our beautiful country, our beloved South Africa, has to offer and to become part of the Buy Local movement. I would like to say, let us all embrace the truth that local is indeed lekker. Let us buy a lekker to buy locally made goods. It is lekker for consumers. It is also lekker and pleasant for businesses. It is outstandingly lekker for job creation and for inclusive prosperity, but more importantly for our future as well. So I would like us to become a really big movement, a phenomenal movement. And I'd like this to ring in every South African's ears, that each one of us can contribute to the growth of our economy by buying local, by supporting small, medium enterprises and getting them to be properly galvanized so that they can be creative, innovative, and make locally made goods. And by the way, yes, of course, we must focus on buying local, but that must also propel our entrepreneurs to such greater creativity so that we start exporting. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area has now opened up, and it's open for business. Let's make locally made goods so that we can export them to the rest of the continent. And that in itself is going to create lots of jobs and strengthen a lot of businesses. So it is wonderful to be here, and I'm glad, Howard and Minister, you've given me this opportunity to talk about something that I'm really passionate about. And let's get passion to be part of ensuring that our people buy local. So I thank you, and have a wonderful summit and a wonderful Expo as well. Thank you so much.
President Cyril Ramaphosa, thank you very much. And of course, proving that local has always been lekker. We've been saying it for an exceptionally long period of time. So we're about to move now